I am Jim Collison, and we are live from the Gallup campus in Omaha, as well as our offices in Singapore. And this is Gallup's Call to Coach Southeast Asia edition with special guest Kim Pong Lim, recorded on October 13th, 2013. Call to Coach is a resource for those who want to help others discover and use their strengths. We have Gallup experts and independent strengths coaches share tactics, insights, and strategies to help coaches maximize the talent of individuals, teams, and organizations around the world. If you have any questions, comments, or contributions during the show, we do have a live chat room available right below the video. Or if you're listening to the recorded version, you can email them to us right after the show, coaching@gallup.com. And don't forget to visit the Gallup Strength Center. That's Gallup Strength Center, all one word, .com, for all your coaching resources and training needs. You can also catch the video and both streaming and now downloadable audio for offline listening to past shows over at coaching.gallup.com. Saurav Atri is our host today. Saurav works as a learning and development consultant with Gallup in our Singapore office. And Saurav, it's great to see you today. It's great to make contact with you all the way across the ocean. How are you today?
Very good. Thank you so much, Jim. And it's we are super excited here to be bringing this to Singapore and in our Southeast Asia edition. And this is a start for something bigger and greater. The whole strengths movement is something that we are super excited about in the region. And as you know, right, our vision to have 1 billion people in the world know their strengths, and we already have almost 9.4 million people who've taken the Clifton Strengths Finder, and we need to have 1 million people, 1 million coaches supporting these 1 billion people. That's what we're aiming for, and it's great to have this in Singapore today.
Mm-hmm. Well, great to have you, and why don't you take a second and introduce our guest?
Sure. So now today we have one of our first, Gallup-certified strengths coaches in the Singapore region. He's a Singaporean. His name is Kim Pong Lim. He is a founder and managing director of Invisible, which is his company, and he's also a husband and a father of 2 boys and 2 girls, an entrepreneur, an accidental pastor, and a lover of Slayer espressos, and a passionate strengths advocate. He wants to play a key role as an advocate for strengths movement in Asia, as a Gallup strengths coach. Kim Pong is a speaker, trainer, coach for individuals, teams, and organizations on strength-based thinking, performance, and living. He's also a half-time master certified coach in Asia, and a half-time is a global organization that serves high-capacity individuals as well. He studied at University of Michigan and is a certified Berkman Method consultant as well. But more importantly, he is a really passionate strengths advocate for us in the region. And I wouldn't take too much time and let him be our main focus today, and let him give a little bit more introduction about how he got into the whole strengths movement and passionate about it. So Kim, over to you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much, both Jim and Saurav, for inviting me to this forum here. And this is really, really exciting to be the first in Asia to be doing something like this. How did I get started in strength? Well, I think it started back in 2009 when I got involved actually with the Halftime organization. Halftime is really an organization that's based in Dallas, Texas, that helps highly successful and high-capacity individuals move from their success into significance. And I was in a program back in 2009, and just trying to find what is the purpose in my life, where is it I'm going, and one of the tools that he used was actually Strengths Finders. And I tell you, the first time I came into contact with Strengths Finders, for the first time in my life, I was able to recognize myself in all those descriptive words there. I was like, somebody tell me something about this years ago, because I wouldn't be so confused. And through that, I think what has happened is, I went through the halftime program, and it gave me that clarity and a courage, through the different tools that they use, and one of it was Strengths Finders, and that's how I got involved with this whole idea of strength here.
Great. That was really insightful. Tell us, one tip or technique that you use in almost all or one-on-one coaching conversation that you have with your clients.
One tip or technique on coaching. Well, I think Kurt Lisveld back in Gallup taught me something really useful, and it says the best way to love and serve people is to use your talents. When I before Strengths Finders, when I'm like doing coaching, a lot of times it's like you're just looking for a needle in a haystack. You're like just all over the place, right? But I think with StrengthsFinders, what it's helped me in particular is to help me focus my talents, on my clients. How can I help them? So one of my top talents is adaptability. And one of the things I used to do before coaching was I'll come up with this master game plan of what you need to do, step 1, step 2, step 3, and all that kind of stuff, right? But it is just so difficult. But ever since I knew that adaptability is my talent and it's not my excuse for not preparation, I told myself, spend the time to develop 2 things, right? 1, get the skills of coaching right. Learn how to manage a conversation, learn how to listen, learn how to ask the right questions, learn, when to talk and when to just shut up, right? And then, know about, what this client is all about. What is it that he wants? What is it that she wants? Where are they at this point in time? And once I've done all those homework over time, I get into the conversation and just lean into my talent, and let adaptability take over. And that is probably one of the most, I'll say the sweetest, experiences I've ever had, because, ever since I discovered that, it's like the light bulb just turned on. You sort of know, which tool to get to do the best job with. Yeah.
Great, and tell us a little bit more about, one of the stories that you had with one of these people that you've coached, something which was really impacted you as a person, and just in terms of knowing strengths of that person and how that person can use those strengths to unlock their potential.
Yeah. Well, this is actually not with one particular individual, but this is actually with a bunch of high school kids here. I did, a strength workshop for a bunch of kids a couple months back. And these kids, just some demographics about them. Number 1, these guys, they are in what we call a neighborhood school. So they're not like at the top of the line kind of schools in Singapore. Number 2, they come from families that they're not exactly, in the middle class. So they're kind of in the lower, spectrum of the demographics in Singapore. And, in terms of self-esteem, it's not great. They were not really confident of who they are as individuals and as people. And I did a strength workshop with these guys here, right? And one of the things that I learned from one of my fellow coaches, and this is the shout out to David Tanner, if you're watching in the program here, he taught me something really powerful. That a lot of times society asks us to become everything. You have to be an all-rounder. And this kind of stuff, doesn't escape in Singapore. In our schools, I think that's changing already. But in our schools, a lot of the emphasis is on, being an all-rounder. You got to do your literature, you got to do your history, your geography, your math, your English, and all kinds of stuff. And you have to do it all well. If you don't do it all well, you're not that good, right? So it's the all-rounder pressure on these kids here. And at one part of the workshop, I said to these kids, guys, you are not a circle. You're not expected to be a circle, but you're a star. You're a star with very distinct peaks and valleys in your life. And those peaks are really your talents. If you can find out what they are, you want to really sharpen them and make them really pointed and really sharp so they can use them really, really well in your life. And for those that are in your valleys, well, don't forget them. Just make sure that you are able to make your valleys shallow, but spend all the time sharpening your stars. And I was just sharing with them this whole idea, right? And you can see that their eyeballs are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Now, at the end of the whole workshop, and it is something that really surprised me. I did not plan for this. But at the end of the workshop, I asked them a question. So, who are you? I didn't plan for an answer. I didn't plan for anything. I said, like, who are you? And without warning, everybody in the room, there are like about 10 kids in the room, everybody in the room just shouted out, I am not a circle. I am a star. I was like, whoa, that was incredible. And when I saw that with my own eyes, guys, I tell you, I knew I'm onto the right thing here. I knew I'm doing something that I absolutely love, and that is really unlocking the potential in people's lives, getting people to see what is in their lives rather than to always focus on things that's been left out from their lives. So this is really, really an incredible experience for me.
That's such a wonderful story. Also, I remember you talking about how you became an accidental pastor. I would love to hear more about that piece. That was really phenomenal.
Yeah, that's what I call a bait and switch by my pastor back in 2004. Well, back in 2004, I was asked to start up the youth ministry in my church. And the funny thing was this, right? I mean, I absolutely have no, how do I say, I have no inkling, nor the kind of glow and warmth for young people because I'm terrified of them. I'm just not sure, what you're thinking, what's the kind of music that they're listening to right now, what are they learning in schools. I'm so out of touch with the young generation. My pastor said, hey, no, Kim Pong, I just want you to come with me and start up this youth ministry in my church. And I thought it's going to be just a 1-2 year kind of engagement, but it turned out to be a 9-year engagement. I was the guy that started up the youth ministry. I ended up pastoring these kids here. I'm not an ordained pastor or anything, but you know what? I fell in love with them. I fell in love with them. I saw what they had, and I said, gosh, if you give me the opportunity, and if you put these kids into the right rooms with me, we can do something about their lives here. Whether is it for their spiritual lives, or whether is it for their physical and their student lives and all that. We can do something if people want to do something together. And I just had this incredible privilege of 9 years of just working with them. I call it accidental because I never see myself as a pastor, but when I look back in the past 9 years, that's what I did a lot of, just pastoring these kids here.
Great. And in the process, how do you find these people uniquely, unique literally, in terms of their strengths and working with their strengths to unlock their potential? How does that play out, during those conversations with them?
Well, if I were to lay out everything that I found out about them, I mean, this half-hour conversation is just not going to be enough. But let me just pick on one thing here, right? Just take the trait impatience, right? A lot of kids can be very impatient with their parents. A lot of kids can be very impatient with their teachers. They can be impatient with even the pastoral leanings or teachings in the church sometimes, just because of who they are. And a lot of times when you are in a youth group situation, in a faith-based organization, you want to make the person better in a sense, and you say, gosh, I think you got to be a little bit more patient. You got to be a bit more patient and all that. I remember, speaking on one of the youth surveys, I said, gosh, has anybody ever thought about this? That when you pray a prayer that says, God, can you help me not to be impatient? Can you imagine that you're asking God to take away something that He has actually given to you? Like, look, did any one of you kids actually went to the school of impatience to learn impatience? No, you didn't. Did any of your kids went to the school of shyness to learn about, being shy and about being an introvert and all that? No, it somehow has been given to you. And I was just telling them, say, look, if this is what has been given to you in life, then what are you doing with what you have been given? So instead of praying the prayer of, take away impatience in my life, what about praying the prayer of, help me direct impatience to the things that matters? How can we do that? And I think that really messes up their minds quite a fair bit because, people don't really quite think of it that way, or kids in a youth group, in a faith-based organization, don't quite think of it in that manner. But I realized that, this whole Strengths Finders perspective has really unlocked some fundamental things that we used to say, no, this is not good. Let's take it all away. But actually what we are focusing on is on the wrong thing. In trying to focus on the negative performance, we took away the talent. But the idea here is, let's look at the talents, look at what these kids have, and help them transform that into a positive impact and positive performance in their lives, in their youth groups, in their schools, in their families, and everywhere that they go.
That is really, really touching, Kim. Also, just in terms of since you're such a highly successful coach here in the Asia Pacific region, to all the other coaches who are listening in right now, what advice would you offer in helping them develop their coaching businesses and also developing themselves as coaches?
Oh, okay. I think people do not become coaches just to make money. I think people become coaches because they are called to coach. There's something in their lives or something in their hearts that speaks to them that says, I think we can make life better for people that we relate to. And I just want to re-quote, Kurt again, Kurt Litzveld, that the best way to love and serve people is to use your talents. Now, one of the ways that that when I'm coaching people, I mean, I equip myself with the best tools in the market. I equip myself with, as much exposure and as much knowledge as I possibly can. But I would say, ever since I understood about the Strengths Finders tool here, it has done something to unlock, the way I coach people. Well, it's sort of like giving you an unfair advantage in your life, where you actually have that secret know-how on how people think. I think with Strengths Finders, you're able to get into your client's mind and sort of like take a mental picture of how he thinks, how he feels, and how he behaves. And you're looking at a picture and go, I know what you're doing here. But this guy, as he's talking, he doesn't have a clue where he's going, right? But it gives you a very, very good roadmap, a very good compass, to help direct your clients, in their quest for finding meaning, finding potential, and just becoming a better person. And for me, actually, it has really also helped me, focus my talents on coaching. Like I mentioned just now, adaptability was one of those go-to talents for me in how I could actually, be present, in the moments for my client and just be totally absorbed, into the conversation and just serve them, in this incredible privilege that they've given me. The other things that, for coaches, if we understand, how we ourselves think, how we ourselves feel, how we ourselves behave, gosh, can you imagine how you can train that and into focus and just be able to serve our clients, at a maximum level? So one of my top 5 talents is competition, and competition is about winning. It's about being number one. It's about getting ahead of people and and having people see me, and it's a lot of time. It's very self-centered. It's very self-focused in that sense. But I've learned, to innovate with the strength a little bit. I have turned competition on my clients. The question every time I go into a coaching conversation is always this: how do I help them to win? What can I do with them to help them to win? Now, that has changed the game, for me when I coach with clients, because, that motivation is far much more priceless than any other thing else I've ever known. Because, when they win, I win, and that's just an amazing experience for me so far. So, I would say, look, for coaches out there who are looking for, why should you, become a strengths coach? Why should you get into Strengths Finders? Well, it is really because, you will have in your hands knowledge that you could use so powerfully for yourself individually first, and then you can use that with your clients.
Great. And tell us more about, your experience of going through the Accelerated Strengths Coaching Program and, how that equipped you with the tools to be able to become a better coach.
Yeah. Well, see, I started my strength journey back in 2009, and when I was really captivated at the halftime organization with the Strengths Finders thing, I was like, wow, this is really incredible, right? And actually, back in late 2010, early 2011, I wanted to be a strength coach. By 2011, I was really the halftime coach, coaching halftimers and all that. But I said, gosh, I want to be a strength coach too. How can I get that done? But back then, Gallup didn't have any of those courses open up to the public. So what I did was I did so much research on my own. I was just studying, reading all the books, and I was basically stalking everybody that knows about Strengths Finders and just learning everything as much as I could, right? And then in early this year, Omaha opened up with the accelerated course, the first course, and I was there in May together with a bunch of 19, 20 other people. And as I was sitting in the class, Saraf and Jim, as I was sitting in the class, as Mara and Kurt was bringing us through the program, day 1, day 2 was a breeze for me, because everything that they would say, I'll go, yep, I knew that, yep, I knew that, yep, I knew that. But when it came to day 3 and day 4 and day 5.5, right, I saw the ways and things that they can do with strengths that I never knew I could. And that blew my mind completely. I was like, wow, now I have the ability to look at this from a different perspective. I have different tools, I have different conversations, I have different platforms on which I can engage, strength in different applications. It doesn't just have to be a one-on-one coaching. It can be applied to many, many things. I could use it to help people to in public speaking, for that matter, if they want to, right? And I think the accelerated course is really a very good program where I think it equips you, number one, with the terms and the constructs, of what StrengthsFinders is all about. It really equips you with that language. And I think what it gives with the construct and the language is really, the handles and the abilities for you to use them and to apply them in very applicable and very practical and very powerful and impactful ways. So, I mean, I've been experiencing that since I came back from May.
Great. And as you know, we are super excited to bring that course into the Asia Pacific region. So we actually have our first course in Sydney in the second week of November, and also now in Singapore from the 25th till 29th November. So if you want to know more about it, or if you want to enroll for the course, write to us at coaching@gallup.com. Let me repeat that as coaching@gallup.com, and we'll be happy to connect with all of you aspiring coaches or experienced coaches who want to up their game through this program and enroll you into the program. So Kim, that was really insightful. Thank you for sharing that. Just in the last piece, from some of the stories you mentioned about how that has been impactful. I just want you to talk a little bit more about the tools that you've been using to coach these people, and how do you see the whole strengths movement from your personal perspective going forward in the Asia region, since you've already been starting coaching people, but how do you see it going forward for you as a person?
When I came back from Omaha, one of my own personal goals that I've set for myself is to become one of the key advocates for strength in Asia. I want to do everything I can to really spread the word regarding strength in Asia, not just Singapore. I want to talk about it in Malaysia, in Thailand, and in Indonesia, Philippines, Japan, wherever. And the reason for it is this, right? In Asia, our culture is a very hard-working culture. It is not an individualistic culture, and as a result of that, a lot of us, are trained in a way to just, go with the flow, or go with what the organization wants of you. And a lot of time, we keep who we are down to a minimum, but we put ourselves through a lot of hard work doing the things that people want us to do. I mean, that's it's more for the team and not for the individual. And I thought this whole strength idea, it's a very powerful conversation here, where I think it can be used to, number one, to really make an individual become who or she is, what he or she is meant to be, and on top of that, it's not going to alienate them from the team, from the organization. In fact, it is going to become a powerful momentum that's going to be used to bring people together. Because when people are alive in who they are, they know exactly what they want, and they can see that in their friends and the colleagues that they're working with. My gosh, you're looking at an explosion of power here. So I think it is really exciting to be able to be a part of this, to get the word out to Asia, to really spread this movement of strength, in every country in this part of the world here. I'm not sure whether if I'm answering your question here, Saurabh, but
yeah. No, it's perfectly great in terms of how you're taking this movement forward, and this is where the biggest opportunity is, right? So, and as we call it, the barn doors are pretty much open. The movement is already out there, ahead, and creating a big revolution of strengths. And it's your turn to come on board and be part of this fantastic revolution, which is going to help people unlock their potential. So thank you so much, Kim, from that. Jim, do you have any final thoughts on this?
Yeah, Kim, let me ask you your top 5. We have them listed at coaching.gallup.com, but we didn't ever say them. So if anybody was watching this, why don't you rattle off your top 5 for us so we know how you're laid out?
Sure. My number 1 is futuristic. Number 2 is ideation. My number 3 is belief. My number 4 is adaptability, and my number 5 is competition.
I like that belief one. That doesn't show up a lot here at Gallup on there, but I love that. My wife has that as number 2, and wow. I see that. I see that in her all the time. What do you think your biggest challenge is a coach today as you're coaching people? What's the biggest challenge that you run up against?
I think the biggest challenge probably is, I would say, getting the right people into the right room, because I think coaching is so prevalent in many parts of the world, And when you mention a tool like, say, Strengths Finders, for example, people just, oh yeah, I've done something like a DISC or MBTI before. It sort of like get grouped into the whole basket of goods here. So I think one of the biggest challenges is to you need to take the time to really differentiate what strength is all about compared to the rest of the other tools in the market here. I think the other thing is it's probably also partly a cultural thing here in Asia. I think a lot of coaching happens really more at the top level executive, mezzanine floor. But I think coaching, as an engagement, at the ground level or at the mid level, may sound a little strange. So I think we have some work to do in terms of education, educating people to the vast possibilities of coaching people, of coaching them at that level, and having them believe that, yeah, they can be coached. Yeah.
And let me ask you one more question as we kind of bring this thing in for a landing here.
Sure.
If you had a magic wand and you could change anything about the area you're coaching in, right? So they're in Singapore, your group, whatever. If you could change one thing, just wave it and change it, what would you do?
Wow, you're putting me on the spot here.
With your high belief, you should have no problem with this question.
Well, if there's one thing that I can change, and that would be to see that who they are is the well, I'll use the quote again by Kurt Lisveld again. I mean, this guy is like my idol and he's like my
we
big
like
man
Kurt too. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, he said something like this. He says, the very best of who we are is the source of the very best of who we can be. And I think the magic wand would be this. If I could wave that wand and we all can look at who we are, we all can get really excited about who we are. And the next question is what do I do? Tell me what to do. That would be the moment for me.
That is a great answer. I've just spent the last 3 weeks on the road working with college students across the United States, and oftentimes we get an opportunity to talk to them about strengths, and sometimes we hand out the strengths books as as a reward for giving us a good question or something like that, right? Yeah. And I always give it to them and say, okay, now I leave my card in it. I said, you have to send me an email back with what your strengths are. And just today I got one of those emails back, and she said, wow. My strengths were, first she said thank you for giving me the book, and we always say share your results with people. And she said and she listed out her 5 strengths, and she said they're all right on, and I look forward to using these as tools to
excellent.
Future. It's an amazing thing. And
that is great.
Even my own children, as we put them through that, no age is too young on that. And even my own children, as we put them on that, said, "Dad, are they watching us?" And so, Kim Pong, thank you for taking the time today and for getting together with us. And Saurav, thank you for putting all this together. We look forward to maybe a kind of a South Asia edition. More of these to come, and so we're excited about that. If you're listening to this live, you're one of the very first. You can say, I listened to the first one live, and we'll ask you to come back and let you know as things go forward. And Saurav said in there, if you have any questions, you can send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. That's a great way to get questions into us, and we'll get those right back to you as well. And we also want to remind you to take advantage of all the resources we have available out at the Gallup Strength Center. So if you just go to Gallup-strengthscenter.com. And I was out there, we got a question in chat from someone asking if when our courses were as well, what we were offering in 2014. And I do see we've updated our course offerings for 2014 as well. And so, Jen, thanks for getting that question in there. We want to highlight the Sydney, Australia course that's coming up. That's actually just right around the corner. That is November 18th, and there's a few spots left as well as the one that we're doing in Singapore on the 25th of November. And we have some courses here in in December here in Omaha, and one in January in Irvine, California. So we have a bunch of courses coming up, and we want to invite you to those as well. We want to thank Kim Pong again for coming out, for joining us today. And we look forward to doing the next Called the Coach, the Southeast Asia edition. For that, I will say, for everybody here, I will say good day and good night. Thanks for listening.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.